Once, in a kingdom surrounded by high blue mountains, there lived a man named General Alaric. Alaric was a man of great strength and a long history of victories. However, as the years passed, a shadow fell over his spirit. The kingdom was at war with a relentless enemy, and for the first time in his life, Alaric was losing. His soldiers were tired. His strategies were failing. But the biggest problem was not the enemy outside the walls. It was the battle inside Alaric's own mind. Every morning, when the first light of the sun touched the castle windows, Alaric would wake up feeling a heavy weight on his chest. He would lie in bed, staring at the ceiling, thinking about the mistakes of the day before. He worried about the battles of the day to come. He would stay under his blankets for an hour, paralyzed by fear and exhaustion, until his messengers had to knock on his door 3 or 4 times to wake him. By the time Alaric finally stood up, his mind was already defeated. He walked with slumped shoulders, and his voice lacked the spark of a leader. His army saw this, and they too began to lose hope. One evening, Alaric walked to the edge of the camp and saw an old monk sitting by a small fire. The monk was known as the Teacher of Stillness. Alaric sat beside him and sighed. "Teacher," Alaric said, "I have lost my strength. The war is too big, and I am too small. Every morning I feel like the world is crushing me before I even take my first step." The monk smiled kindly and stirred the fire. "General," he said, "the hardest part of a war is not the clash of swords or the charging of horses. The hardest part of a war is the first 5 minutes of the morning." Alaric looked confused. "Only 5 minutes?" "Yes," the monk replied. "When you wake up, your mind is like a clear lake, but then you throw the stones of worry into it. You spend an hour drowning in those ripples. If you can master the first 5 minutes after you open your eyes, you can master any kingdom in the world. I call this the 5-minute rule." The monk gave him 3 simple steps. The first minute: do not think of the past or the future. Simply breathe and thank the universe for the air in your lungs. The second minute: stand up immediately. Do not let your body negotiate with your mind. The final 3 minutes: perform one small, disciplined task with total focus, like making your bed or washing your face, as if it is the most important mission of your life. The next morning, the sun began to rise. As usual, the weight of worry tried to settle on Alaric's chest. He wanted to pull the blankets over his head, but he remembered the monk's voice. Minute 1, he stayed still. He didn't think of the lost battles. He just felt his breath, in and out. He realized he was alive, and that was a victory in itself. Minute 2, before his mind could start making excuses, he threw back the covers and stood up. His feet hit the cold stone floor. It was uncomfortable, but he felt a spark of power. He was no longer a victim of his bed. He was the master of his movement. The final 3 minutes, Alaric began to tidy his room. He folded his cloak perfectly. He polished his boots until they shone. He didn't think about the enemy's thousands of soldiers. He only thought about the cloth in his hand and the leather of his boots.
When Alaric walked out of his tent that morning, something was different. He wasn't slumped. His eyes were sharp. When his captains came to him with bad news, he didn't panic. He thought, "I have already won the first battle of the day. I can win this one too." He began to teach his soldiers the 5-minute rule. He told them, "Do not worry about the whole war. Just win your first 5 minutes." The atmosphere of the camp changed. The soldiers stopped lingering in their tents. They rose with purpose. They found discipline in small things, which gave them the courage for big things. Because they were mentally ready before the enemy even woke up, Their strategies became sharper and their movements more precise. Slowly, the tide of the war turned. The general who was once failing became the general who was unstoppable. Not because he had a bigger sword, but because he had a stronger morning. Years later, when the kingdom was finally at peace, Alaric was asked the secret of his success. He didn't speak of grand maps or secret weapons. He simply said, "The world is won or lost in the first 5 minutes of the morning. If you can conquer your own mind when the sun rises, no enemy can ever defeat you." Remember, success is a series of small victories, starting with the moment you open your eyes.
If you found this story helpful or entertaining, please consider supporting the channel. Hit the like button, subscribe, join our community so you never miss the next chapter. Comment below. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the ending. Thanks for reading, and I'll see you in the next one.